4, 3, 2.
From the nether regions of the Bible Belt, this is your Northwest Arkansas Freethought TV.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Ian Boyles. I'm filling in as host for Donald Morton. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 Commandments on Freethought NWA. And to help talk about this and explain some of the inconsistencies in them, I've brought along some buddies. I've got Randall Doc Fleck, got Charles Braddock, and my good old buddy Alan Ashley.
Good to be here.
And thought we'd just get this started out. We're going to jump straight into this with the 10 Commandments. We're going to go to number 1.
That's a good beginning.
Well, there's some inconsistencies with the ordering, but we're going to stick with what we got here. Number 1 is, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
What other gods? I thought we had a system here where there was only one God.
That's a good point.
So if you've got this one God and he's recognizing that there are other gods, is the one God idea really correct?
Well, possibly he's talking about the shortly during the Exodus from Egypt, so maybe he's talking about the Egyptian gods.
So he's talking about reality instead of fantasy?
That's a very blurry line when it comes to the Bible.
Yeah, well,
This one's
Good point.
interesting because as an atheist, this is probably the only one that I would never see myself breaking. I would have no problems with never having another God before you. I consider them all equal in the non-existent realm.
Sounds
equally, what, equally absent?
Imaginary.
Sounds like absolutism, dogmatic, right? To me, just to be a someone go.
We'll go into 2, I guess.
Yeah, we're going to hop on into number 1. I mean, everybody knows that one. No other gods before me. That's a pretty jealous thing to bring up.
Well, you know, this is the place where the law has got to be laid down, and that's what we're talking about here with the 10 Commandments. It's basically a set of laws, just as simple as can be. Somebody wants to control everybody's life, you know. And rule number 1 is, I'm the boss. I'm the boss. I am the boss.
Well, hold on just a second. We have a lot of local folks who believe that we are designated as a Christian country and founded as such. So
Yeah.
if there is no other God before the God in the Bible, how come it's written into the not 10 Commandments, Jesus, the Bill of Rights that there's all religions are equal?
Well, because we had some reasonable thinking people, I believe, you know, people who didn't really put much faith in the Bible or the Quran or the Hindu book, whatever that is. You know, they just looked at these things and said, well, this is somebody's idea of how things should be, and obviously at this point, this modern age of 1776, they were wrong, so we're going to come up with something better. The Founding Fathers actually preferred what the Romans did and what the Greeks did to the rest of what everybody else did. You know, the Romans had a representative government. They had senators, and they had orators, and they would talk about things in a reasonable fashion. The Greeks had philosophers. They would talk about things in a reasonable fashion. Outside of those two civilizations, you really had this kind of thing, you know, this 10 Commandments kind of thing, where somebody was saying, I'm the boss. Yeah. Listen to me.
If you look at it from the perspective of somebody wrote these books, because somebody did. I mean, from our perspective, we think man wrote it. You know, some people say it's the Word of God, but somebody wrote those books. What is the reason for wrote the Commandments? What is the reason for number 1? And the reason for number 1 is, I don't want you to even think that another God is even possible. I don't want you to think that. I don't want you to say, well, I believe in you, in your, you know, God, capital G, but I also believe in Zeus, and I also believe in the other guys from the Greek gods. It was a way of saying, you either follow me and only me, or you're going to burn in hell.
You will not follow the pagan god of the harvest or the crop that you harvest. You will only follow
exactly
the Yahweh God.
It's a very he's very jealous, And he obviously, if this came from God, he's jealous. He doesn't want any other god's attention.
Add on to the "you're going to burn in hell" thing, though. That has to be an invention of God. Not only am I the God, but I am a God who says that there is a hell to burn in.
With any type of law.
So it's fantasy on top of fantasy.
Well,
With any
that's
type
getting
of-
away from the Ten Commandments. Let's stick with that.
With any type of law, like the commandments are said to be, law, you have to be able to enforce them, and there has to be punishment.
Yeah.
And that's where we talk about hell coming in is, if you have a law and no punishment, then it's not really a law.
There were better sets of law. Almost 1,000 years before that, out of Babylonia, came the laws of Hammurabi. Yeah, I mean they were pretty brutal laws, the eye for the eye sort of thing, Or if a man on the lower level of the scale steals from a man on the richer level of the scale, cut his hand off.
Yeah.
If it happens to be a rich man stealing from another rich man, he pays money.
Right.
So the laws were kind of weird, but they weren't based on gods. They were just based on this is what we want as people.
Yeah. Some of these first ones are all very similar.
Yeah.
So
Number 2 is speaking of the whole jealous thing. We've got, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth." And the key word here is graven image. Graven being something that is worshipped. Now, the Catholics have just tromped all over number 2, because if you go to any Catholic church, they're all about the shrines of Mary, the shrines of Jesus, of the baby.
The saints. They
The
have
saints.
Vatican
Oh,
is
wow.
full of
All kinds of symbolism, yeah. Even to the point of holding in reverence things that have been found at later years or touted as being important, like the Shroud of Turin, that is looked upon as a holy relic. And it's not prayed to, it's not worshipped to, but
A lot of the grave sites of the different saints are prayed and worshipped to.
Yeah, but it's held in reverence. It's something that shouldn't be desecrated. It's something that shouldn't be spoken badly about, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of symbolism that they include into their big image of what God is or what's sacred.
Not to mention the toast with the Virgin Mary on it.
Yeah,
And,
it's like you can't go into a Catholic church and blow out all the candles. People wouldn't like that.
Number 2, I kind of feel pretty much the same as number 1. Number 2 is you won't worship the golden calf. Really, 1 and 2 could be combined, in my opinion. A lot of them could be combined. We'll go ahead and skip on down to...
I disagree with you. A lot of these things should be combined. I think a lot of these things should be thrown out.
There's a lot better commandments, and we're going to get to some of the stuff that got left out of the 10 Commandments that are important.
I think we even got some atheist commandments, or just general good commandments. For
Right.
That's going to be a fun part. I'm
And
waiting for that.
we'll get to that in a minute. We gotta get through these other 7
Ian's
first.
amendment to the 10
Yeah,
Commandments.
we're going to have some amendments. Ian's Bill of Rights.
I hate you.
I hate all of you. Number 3, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold unto him guiltless that taketh his name in vain."
Bullshit.
goddamn.
We were talking about this. We were talking about this a couple days ago, and someone brought up that it really wasn't talking about saying "God damn" or anything like that. It was actually more about not saying "I swear to God that if this happens, I'll do this, or I swear to God I didn't lie about that. Swearing to God as an oath and using God as your collateral for something you're about to claim.
Number 3, given the context of the time where the majority of people couldn't read or write, and they still would do contracts like, I will give you so many cattle or sheep in exchange for a percentage of your grain, and I swear by God to do this. By making that swear, that is invoking effectively a legal contract at the time. And by swearing to God, that is what makes it fully valid in the eyes of the law. It's kind of like getting it stamped by a judge would be today. So looking at it from that perspective, I can understand why this one would be important at that time. Now we've got a whole legal system and contracts that we can all hopefully read.
We've got a better way.
We've come a long way from the 10 Commandments. Anybody else got something on that one? All right, let's skip on down to number 4. This is my personal favorite. Everybody needs a day off. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it you shall not do any work, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, or manservant, or maidservant, nor your cattle, or oxen, or the stranger creeping around inside your gates.
I would say if I had to pick one, that would probably be my favorite out of all of them.
Now, before we get into this, I have to point out that everybody's doing it wrong. The Sabbath is actually Saturday. It was moved by the Gregorian calendar, I believe it was Constantine, to Sunday. So anybody that takes Sunday off and works on Saturday, you all have it backwards.
Well, and something else on this one. This is where you get a lot of people who, under other guise, make blue laws. Saying you can't sell liquor on Sundays and alcohol on Sundays. Yeah. And while they think of it as, well, we're just thinking of safety for, people going to work on Monday and whatnot, but that's what they sell it as. It's really because of Sunday being a holy day.
Yeah, well, you see, those are modern day laws, though, that give special privilege to religion. And blue laws, as a matter of fact, still exist in some places today. There are laws written by intelligent modern people, and I don't know why they did it.
In Arkansas.
Exactly, right here in Arkansas. Intelligent modern people who didn't give thought one to why they're doing this. That was just like knee-jerk reaction. Well, that's Sunday, we got to protect it, or that's holy, we got to protect it. And so they've come up with these laws, and they are special privilege laws for religion, and my idea is that they're very, very wrong. My favorite wrong one is part of the Arkansas State Constitution that says that you have to pass a religious test in order to hold high office. It specifically says that if you're atheist, you can't hold high office. That's wrong, 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 wrong. Something's got to be done about that.
When we get to the news, I've got a couple examples of current laws that lawmakers are trying to get pushed through that we're going to get a good laugh on that one.
Good.
So let's move on to number 5. Honor thy mother and thy father.
If they're honorable.
Go. Yes.
Yeah, this is saying that just by being your mother or being your father, they deserve your honor. They get it from day one. They can't ever lose it.
What if your mom's a crackhead?
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of situations where they have shitty parents who do not deserve to be honored by their kids, and their kids have gone on to basically surpass them, and despite having shitty parents,
I happen to have been one of the lucky people who had 2 great parents. I mean, really just wonderful, super-duper people. My mother's passed away. My father is still alive today, 89 years old, and God, I hope he lives to 58,000 years old. He's a great man. But very, very honorable people. Both of them Christians, by the way. And so quite different in their thinking than I am. But they allowed me to use reason and logic and exploration of my own life and to make my own choices. And so they gave me the ability and they gave me the education to learn how to think, and I did. And they respect me for it, or Mom did until she passed away, and Dad still does. So those are honorable people that I would say this commandment is a decent thing, but it shouldn't be commanded. That's the whole business.
Well, speaking of this commandment as it would apply to modern law, because remember, there's still a lot of people that think the 10 Commandments are what our whole country is based on. In America, from birth till the age of 18, the parent is responsible for the child.
For the actions of the child.
For the actions of the child. Although, ironically, the child can be profane towards the parent as an exercise of free speech. That is technically the way this works. And if the parent is a bad parent, it is written into our legal code that the child can be removed from the custody of a bad parent and placed in the custody of a good family.
Absolutely.
And that right there is a big slap in the face to the 5th commandment. Which
to the 10 Commandments, yeah.
None of these are made how to establish a society. They're all based on faith and to worship one God.
Yeah, I can understand back in the times they would want to try to guide organization. You want your father to be honored, and that means your father honors his father, and you've got a chain all the way back, and it kind of creates order. And that's what this is all about. It's about organizing people. They wanted order.
Sure.
And this is a way of getting order out of people, even though it makes no sense.
Well, sure. Religion overall is a government. It's a system of government. It doesn't have. It's not based on borders, and it's not based on region. It's just based on thought, and it's a system of government that is non-representative. It tells you the way it should be, and that's how you have to behave.
And it's not changing. And that's the thing. It's static. It doesn't change. Dogmatic.
Yeah.
And
It's based on the fact that some people believe they need higher power, not just man or government to tell them what to do. They can't just live by the laws of man.
And the irony is that belief is typically instilled in people from an early age.
Oh, sure.
well, and there's always
but get this. I mean, keeping it to the Ten Commandments here, if you had a leader in this country or any country who strongly follows the Ten Commandments, he would follow those Ten Commandments before he would follow his own reason. Now, what if this is a dishonorable man, and what if he is someone who lies, cheats, and steals, and could care less about, has no compassion for other people, and no empathy for their problems? If he's dishonorable, should his kid honor him? Should anyone?
Yeah, just because so-and-so had a little fling with some woman doesn't make him an honorable person and deserve your respect. I mean, that's
well, there are degrees of honorability too. I mean, we had presidents right from the start. Even our founding fathers were people who were chasing a little tail from time to time, who were drinking a little too much most of the time.
Still today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go Clinton.
Truly. These were just ordinary, run-of-the-mill people. They weren't saints, angels, and gods. They were people. They used their brains, and they made a system that we could all live by that turned out to be a system that works out pretty well. Today we've got people who are saying, well, no, it wasn't that way. They weren't ordinary people. They were Christian people. They followed God's rule before they followed the reason. Nonsense. They didn't.
Okay.
If they did, they wouldn't have been honorable people as far as I'm concerned, and I wouldn't call them fathers.
Number 6. Now, most of us can agree with this one. Thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
Unless it's self-defense, of course.
Which is
They didn't
written
add
into
that.
our law. Number 6, thou shalt not kill, according to the Bible. And remember, this is divine. This is the way it is. There's no exception to this rule because God states, thou shalt not kill. Although,
Okay, now ask yourself, why are you able to agree with that so easily?
hold on. But, Doc, if you break into my house and you're all messed up and I cap you in the face because you're an intruder at 3 a.m. stumbling through my house making a ruckus, technically I'm legally entitled to do so.
Well, yeah, and that would be killing. So it would be in violation of the Ten Commandments. And yet you still said right from the start that you agree with the idea that thou shalt not kill is a reasonable law.
And I think most of us here would agree that there's really no concrete law. And that's what they want to get out of the Ten Commandments. They want it to be concrete, non-changing. And I don't think any one of us could think of a single law that there wouldn't be one situation in which it'd be okay to break.
And
Absolutely.
the irony of number 6, thou shalt not kill, the majority, actually I think all punishments for every commandment being broken is death in one form or another.
And specifically, you could stoning to death is a popular punishment for various things throughout the Bible. So God says, "Thou shalt not kill," except for, wait a minute, unless they go against me or they badmouth. A kid badmouth his
Stoning,
dad.
Or they're from a different tribe.
Execution by stoning is still happening today, by the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not just the Bible that does that, it's the Quran that holds that up. And I can't think of a more vicious way to kill people.
Protestants specifically have a big movement in Africa, and they, on a regular basis, stone witches to death. That it happens today, and it's encouraged.
Where? What countries?
Africa. I couldn't give you the specific countries. I'd have to go look up that. We have a member of our group that moved here from Africa, and he shared quite a bit of the scary things he has seen there. brought on specifically by American churches trying to get a foothold in Africa. And this gentleman had some very disturbing stories to share with us. And one of them specifically was women being stoned because somebody decided they were a witch.
Well, children, I heard, are being abused or exercised, I suppose, would be the right word to use, because they're witches, and by their own parent. Their own parents are doing things like, putting hot rods to them and that sort of thing.
This is why we're so far against believing things that are not based on reality.
Yes.
Because you get, and while it may seem like in the U.S., oh, well, we're civilized, we don't do that kind of stuff, and it's like, but no, starting out with a belief that's not reasonable, with reasonable evidence in the real world and reality, you can end up doing things like that, like they do in Africa.
Yes, you can end up with some horrible...
you think, oh, well, that can't happen to us, but it wasn't that long ago we were having Salem witch trials. And
horrible results. Horrible
What's
results.
that?
Burning people on the stake.
You throw a witch in the river, and if she floats, then
then she weighs as much as a duck. What?
if she floats, she's innocent. If she sinks, or might be vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. If you take a witch, or a suspected witch, you throw her in the river. If she sinks, she was innocent. If she floats, she's a witch and must be killed.
Yeah.
Hammurabi laws had something like that in them too. I read through those things just a few weeks ago, where a man would be judged according to whether or not he would sink or float, but on all kinds of different things. Like if he built a house that the roof caved in and it killed his son, then the builder of the house would be taken to the river, and if he could sink or swim, would decide his fate. That would decide whether he should be killed or not.
Right.
Well, and any reasonable lawmaker would come up within the first 10 seconds that don't kill each other, unless you got a good reason, as a law to write down. To need a commandment from God to let all of us know, I'm pretty sure most of us were born with the innate concept that murder's wrong.
Well, and as a species, we have to live with each other. We're a
That's why I asked.
Group species, and we have to live with each other, so we have to have agreements. And among those agreements are, I won't kill you if you don't kill me. Sure. And that way we can go on living. I trust that 99.9% of the people I'm around every day won't kill me. And the reason they won't kill me is because they trust I won't kill them.
Exactly. And that's why I asked that original question, why are you so able to see the correctness of this particular golden rule, or not golden rule, of commandment, as opposed to the ridiculousness of the other ones? Well, this one makes sense, because we can't have a society that functions well or functions in any way, shape, or form if we go around killing each other. So we're all able to see, just as easily as pie, that not killing each other ought to be a rule that we follow.
It's beneficial. It's
and it doesn't have to come from God. It comes from the brain. It comes
Well,
from thinking
there's
about
been
it.
discussions through, I believe it's evolutionary memes. Is that the proper term?
No.
All right. Evolutionary memes, that through the course of our full evolution, including the part where we become self-aware, conscious of our own existence, that violent tribes will wipe each other out faster than non-violent ones. And that right there on its own is pretty much an establishment of the evolutionary process, that the ones that are going to kill each other are going to wipe each other out faster than the ones that get along.
And keep their populations way, way down, and consequently their
They won't breed as often.
Their societies don't profit because they have fewer people to build. The societies don't profit because they have fewer people to do the thinking, to come up with new ideas, and to experiment and explore. And sure, they go around not only just killing each other, but in some cases eating each other.
It still happens today. All right. Anything else on thou shalt not kill? All right.
Should we take a vote on it? Let's keep that. Let's keep that one.
Not up to a vote.
I think we can hang on to that one, but seeing how that is written into our national laws in one capacity or another, and there are exceptions to that law, self-defense would be the best and easiest
War.
to understand exception.
We
Yeah,
we
war,
hire,
but you know
we
what?
hire people to kill when it's necessary, like a policeman or an executioner. You know, those kinds of things where the state condones, you're a person who's allowed to kill, and you're allowed to kill under these certain circumstances. We're going to slap a soldier's uniform on you, and you're going to defend the country, or we're going to put a policeman's uniform on you, and you're going to defend us from violent criminals on the street.
Or we'll slap a Blackwater uniform on you and send you to Katrina disaster zones.
As far as our society to evolve to be a better society, I think we need to get rid of guns. Have some gun control. It'd be less violence, less murders.
That's a whole different
a whole
topic.
different subject.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, I
and
don't
when we
think
get
that-
into that one, I'm going to have to bring my guns so I can
Well, I mean,
smack you upside the head.
We have different opinions
This
here.
might be one of your amendments to the Ten Commandments. You know, Commandment number 11: Thou shalt carry a weapon.
As see, responsible
wanna make
people,
anyone do it.
I'd actually like to make a point on this topic since it's been brought up. A lot of people assume that all atheists think the exact same. And the thing about atheists is we've all at some point come to the conclusion that we don't believe in the higher powers, etc. A lot of other stuff we can accept, but there's no evidence for it. A lot of us have figured out the history of the Bible, and a lot of us have come to our own conclusions through our own means of gun control or not. Personally, I have a small arsenal, and I enjoy blowing stuff up. And I like to practice with my weapons, and that's something that you do. You should, and I intend to teach my children how to use rifles and shotguns and pistols.
And sitting right next to you, here's Brad, who says, we need to get rid of those guns. They're causing problems in society.
I have a gun collection. I love shooting guns. It's a great toy. But as far as society goes and the brutality of our society, one day we need to get rid of them so that we can live in a better, peaceful utopia.
See, I would argue that we're always going to have people that... We're always going to have the Jeffrey Dahmers. We're always going to have David Koresh.
We need to set this topic aside.
Yeah,
'cause
so-
I think honestly we could have a good hour show just based on gun control. And,
Absolutely.
and
I'd like to let the audience know that just because we all have the title atheist doesn't mean we've come to the same conclusions through the same means or that we agree on anything else.
Right.
Yeah, there
Which is part of the
no
fun.
God. We can agree on that.
No God.
And that's about the only
No.
thing we agree on. You should hear us talk politics when we've had a couple.
From there on, we go in different paths.
Oh,
And that's what we don't sit around. That's our Friday night social. I'm sure we'll bring it up there. We just sit and we talk about stuff, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about gun control, various religious things if we want to. We talk about politics. We talk about movies, video games, whatever we want to, and we can do it in an environment that we know other people aren't going to get offended by what we say, and that they're open for discussion. If they disagree, then they'll present their side of it, and we'll look at it. But I do want to point out one more thing on "Thou shalt not kill." We'll get back to the Ten Commandments.
all right. Go for it.
It doesn't take a genius, or it doesn't take a genius, nevertheless a God, to come up with the "Thou shalt not kill." Okay, it's not brilliant. It's not some world-renowned thing of, oh my God, I never thought about not killing other people as a way of moving on in life. I just didn't think of it till God came down. It doesn't take someone
Every
brilliant.
tribe on
Holy
our
cow,
planet.
what a concept. Don't kill people.
Yeah.
Every tribe on our
gosh.
planet that hasn't wiped itself out in 2 generations has some form of don't kill each other.
Yes.
And they've probably also got exceptions to the rules. All right, number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery.
I've
Go.
always been confused on what they actually mean by adultery. What in the terms of the Bible are they considering adultery? Because I know in one cases it's the man that can create he doesn't commit adultery, but the wife does.
A man with wives can rape a woman and take the victim in as his wife with all the other wives. And there's actually tons of instances in the Bible of men having multiple wives, etc. This whole marriage being between one man, one woman thing that specifically Christians are trying to tout right now, biblically is crap.
Well, and where in there do they have a whole ceremony with the priest and is that in there at all? I mean, because that's what we consider legality of
At the time, they had I'm not sure specifically it was the Judaic or Abrahamic tribes, but a lot of different tribes and cultures have something where the woman is handed off to her husband, and the husband is giving gifts. Women weren't typically considered to be... Women were there for breeding, and that's not a nice term, but that's what it was. They were there for breeding, carrying on the man's bloodline, and they were there as property. They were exchanged as property, not as people. And that right there is something that I, once again, can't agree with in the Ten Commandments.
List them with your cattle and your possessions.
That's actually, women are stated as property in one of the other commandments. We'll get to that. But adultery, yeah,
It's so if the woman sleeps with someone she's not owned by, then that would be adultery.
right.
So, okay.
Basically, the man can do no wrong, but the woman can.
Yes, yes. It's a double standard thing.
Yeah, the
And,
women, if you actually look through the Bible, just side note real quick,
And
if you
the-
look through the Bible, that's a common theme. The woman's always the fault. When they're running from Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot's wife turns around and looks at Sodom and Gomorrah and turns to a pillar of salt.
Well, it was
So it's all
established
her
in
fault.
Genesis, the very beginning of the Bible, that women brought about everything that's wrong in the world. And when your whole culture starts out that way, as the woman is at fault and everything wrong, from the thorns on the rose bushes to the wild animals and disease, it's all because of women.
Well, a lot of that is interpretation too. You know, how you read what's there. You know, you can say that well, Eve was the reason for the downfall of man, for the fall of man, and for original sin. She picked the apple and all that kind of stuff, and you can blame women for that. I think it's nonsense. Anyhow, the whole story is nonsense. But the idea of a double standard is not necessarily one that exists only in religion. Religion happens to foster it and has carried it even to modern day today to make the woman subservient to the man in situation after situation after situation. And that's the complaint of feminists, you know, or one of them, that women need to be seen as equal to men. It makes sense, you know.
Women are people too. They should have every right that we do. And
Well-
the Ten Commandments will even state that they don't.
Let me make this point about it, though, because I hope it carries it just a step further. Women deserve equality with men in every situation, and that is just as correct and easy to see as the idea of thou shalt not kill, the one we just went over. It's obvious when the answers are right. They are obvious. They don't need to be written down in something like this.
Yeah.
It's even established in the Bible how a man in his household has an order, and the woman needs to follow his rules and his order.
Now, on a anthropological note, previous to any of this, the Bible or when the pagans were the majority of religious structures, women were seen because they brought forth life. And it took a while for humanity in general to figure out that sperm from men and egg is where the baby comes from. But women bring forth the children. And we've found all kinds of large-breasted, large-bellied women idols, stone statues and things, to celebrate the pregnant woman, because she was what brings forth life. And that was the center of most of these pagan societies in one form or another, was a female, not a man.
Fertility goddesses and things like that. That doesn't necessarily mean that the woman was held higher in esteem than the man. It was fertility that was being recognized as a good thing, not necessarily the vehicle that carried it.
I could see that.
You know, women were.
I'd argue with you on that. They've established that a lot of these ancient
With pagans,
tribes,
yes.
did.
With paganism, yes, but not necessarily. There are fertility gods in tribal religions as well, and women are not necessarily seen as being equal in the tribal situation, and yet they have the large-breasted and big-bellied female goddesses or female idols to fertility. But the women there are made to do all the scut work, and the women there are traded off as property between the men. You know, so the double standard exists in lots of different ways, lots of different places. Yes, but I agree with you. Paganism saw it differently.
Anything else on adultery, guys?
No.
All right.
Were you asking adultery?
I'm gonna have to turn you
know,
down, Ian.
I am
Sorry.
single. I'm looking for a lady.
Wait, you can't say it.
Anybody got a wife
Can
or
you
daughter
say that
they
on
need to get
ca-
rid
I
of?
think that's
If you're a Christian, you could just go rape one and they would be yours.
Actually, technically, according to the Bible, what he just said is true. We can look it up and I'll show you. Or you can look it up yourself. Go to evilbible.com and check out what your Bible really says. I'm sorry, what the Bible really says. All right, let's go to number 8 before I get hit. Thou shalt not steal. Once again, this is one that pretty much anybody can agree with. And just like I was talking about the evolutionary memes that have brought in the thou shalt not kill, bring in the same don't steal. I won't steal your stuff if you don't steal my stuff.
Right.
But if you do, I might have to kill you.
I would say the same thing about thou shalt not kill that I did with thou shalt not steal. There's a situation in which I'll steal. If I'm starving and I need to go get a loaf of bread for my family, I'll steal. It's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
concrete like people want to think.
It's a question of who is making the law. And think of this as a law. Thou shalt not steal is a law made by people who have things, not by people who don't have things. The guy who doesn't have, like the loaf of bread, is obligated to steal. And he's got, what else can he do? You know, if he has no other options available to him, he's tried to get a job, he's tried to become a baker, he's tried to grow wheat, he's tried to do this, that, or the other thing to get the loaf of bread that he needs, and he can't find it, can't get it because he's blocked at every effort. Is obligated to steal to keep himself or his family alive. So there are some situations where thou shalt not steal is wrong. And that's when reasonable law made by reasonable people has to come into play. If you simply make a law that says thou shalt not steal without considering every possibility of what is theft and when is theft.
What if you're stealing for the betterment of society? What if you live in a dictatorship and they have all of the wheat or grain or milk or cattle and they will not ration it out to the general populace. They keep it for the military. This happens today. Is it wrong to steal from an evil regime?
Precisely.
I'm sorry, but I would totally be there doing that.
Precisely what I was leading up to. I mean, you're under the rule of an evil regime and led by the rule of the Ten Commandments that says thou shalt not steal. The evil regime has put you into a terrible corner. You can't do anything at all to convince them to be more lenient toward you, more generous toward you, to make your life better, to be decent. If you follow the rule of the Ten Commandments that says thou shalt not steal, you'll never get the gun that you need to shoot the evil regime leader.
I think it refers to do not kidnap myself. Like, do not steal and do not kidnap your partner's wife or your partner's slave.
We've got covet, which kind of covers, I think. Well, all right, tax time's coming up. So guys, when you're filling out your tax forms, think about this. Thou shalt not steal, so write every penny down.
Yeah.
Just keep that in the back of your head when you're up at H&R Block.
No problemo.
All right. Number 9, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
That's a pretty good rule, actually.
I like that one.
I mean,
Yeah. I put that right in the same category with thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not steal. That is reasonable thinking. If you go and tell lies about someone, then you had better be able to substantiate what you're saying, and if you can't, then you're the bad guy. You're not the good guy.
and again, there's still a situation. It's still not concrete. There's still a situation that you can concoct some fantastical scenario where you may need to bear false witness to
I
your
find it
neighbor.
hard to think of a place where it's a good
Simple.
idea
How
to
many
tell a
times
lie
have you
about
been
somebody.
pulled over and the officer goes, do you know how fast you were going? And you tell him 20 miles an hour less than you were doing. It happens.
Or if someone comes knocking at your door saying, hey, so-and-so next to you, it's a guy with a gun, is so-and-so next to you, is he this guy who does this? And if you say no, you're bearing false witness. You're lying about your neighbor, but you're trying not to get him killed.
Yes.
So, you could think of some crazy that'll never really, not never really, but most likely won't happen. So it's not concrete. None of them are.
No, absolutely. And I
But they
think
have
the
to be
bottom line, we're
concrete.
already
They're
at number
God's
9.
divine law.
We're already at number 9 here. We might as well say at this point that one of the things that we recognize about the Ten Commandments being short-sighted and something to not be revered so very, very highly is that it's dogmatic. And dogmatism, dogmatism in itself, in and of itself, is not a very smart way to be.
So what's the next one, Ian?
Number 10. All right.
I want to get to these Dawkins ones, so
Yeah.
I'm going to run out of time.
I want to get to what's missing.
I want to hear Ian's amendments.
Right.
Yes. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. No, hold
That's
on.
a property thing.
Well, yes, that is a property thing. Nor manservant, nor maidservant, nor ass, oxen, or anything of the neighbors. All right, now, these are the normal 10 Commandments. Normal. There's actually 3 different versions through the course of the Bible, and we're talking about the ones presented in Exodus 20. Now, the Catholics, because they have taken out the 2nd commandment about graven images, which they have, go look it up, they have broken number 10 into 2 separate ones. And this whole list of 10 commandments, half the time, is not what's actually presented on the big statue monuments that we see. But anyway, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, wife. Isn't that saying capitalism's bad? I mean, my neighbor bought a new Hummer, and now I need to get something bigger and then jack it up. So,
Well, I suppose that's saying that capitalism's bad. I don't know that it really is aimed at capitalism.
Well, no, but from the sense of it, you know, you don't strive for anything that the neighbor has. You're not jealous at all of any. I mean, you're not. A lot of people base their life off of I want X just like someone else does. I'm going to go work hard to go get it, and that's perceived. That's rewarded in our current economic.
I actually kind of think of this commandment, the coveting part, as being a step beyond the coveting part. You not only covet, you not only want, but you do something to get it.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like, oh, my neighbor's wife is so nice, I think I'll send her flowers and flirt with her. You know, that's wrong.
But I mean, according to the words, this is just covet. I mean, so that extra step's even going beyond what the law requires.
Yeah.
To, you know,
Bottom line of the whole
commandment.
thing, though, is frankly, I think that this is one of those commandments that we could just take and toss out the window. If you happen to think your neighbor's wife is pretty, tell her. If you happen to think your neighbor's wife could do better with you than she could do with your neighbor, tell her that too.
They'll have a better
Maybe
relationship.
she agrees.
but
She might
make
agree.
sure that your neighbor believes thou shalt not kill.
Because that's a good one.
Yeah. Let us know how that works out for you.
Yes.
I believe they'll have a better relationship if they're more loyal and they're tested than if they're never tested at all.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean,
That is a really good point. All right.
So what's your additions, Ian, that we've been led in?
Wait,
Thoughts
did we
been
get to
talking
number
about?
10? You got
Yeah, it
number
was number 10.
10.
Yes.
That was
10 and 11, depending on how you're doing them. All right. I got 2 of them that kind of piss me off that they have not been included. Number 1, rape. Why is that not in here? I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody in today's day and age accepts and acknowledges that rape is bad. Rape is something that nobody should do. We have laws written against it, and yet that's not even mentioned. In fact, the Bible condones rape throughout it and specifies how you can use rape to acquire a new wife or be forced to keep the victim that you raped to prevent her from never getting married or something to that effect.
And I've heard really religious people actually say that you cannot rape your wife because you're married, and it's impossible to do that.
If you're a Christian,
Because you own it's a property thing. Back to the property. It's you
And-
can't. You own
to
that woman. It doesn't matter. You own all women, I guess. I don't know.
it's more than just a property thing. It's a lower value of women.
Right.
if you're a Christian, you're probably asking to get raped because that's what this Bible condones.
Yes, the Bible actually says, you know, if go to your neighboring town, and I'm going to use Bentonville and Rogers as an example for this because I live in Rogers. All right, so I'm going to roll over to Bentonville with all my homies, and we're going to shoot up a neighborhood, kill every man and male child, and take all the women as our wives.
You
And
better not do that.
Hey, in the Bible, it's
That
okay.
happened.
That's encouraged. That is in the Bible, and we can also take them as slaves. We just got to kill the dudes.
You can take the virgins.
Yes, the virgins.
It's actually a story in the Bible if you look it up.
Yes, once again, evilbible.com has all this in there with the exactly
well,
where it's found.
I think another good place to do a short summation. You know, we look at.
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
I know.
Okay.
But a short summation. We look at the Ten Commandments and we say it's a pretty lousy set of rules. It doesn't seem to work too well. And then we have to look at the greater body that it belongs to, and that's the Bible, which is sort of like the amendments to the Ten Commandments. If the Ten Commandments are the rules, the Bible describes the situations of how to apply the Ten Commandments. And it too fails. I mean, both of them fail. One is a set of 10 simple documents, or 10 simple statements. 7 of them I think we could throw off the top of the list and get rid of altogether. The Bible tells us that the 10 Commandments are useful, and it gives us examples of them. I say baloney.
All right. Sorry, you're going to go before I jump onto my next.
You can relate everything that's in the Bible to everything in the Ten Commandments to the divine command theory that says that is morality good because God says it is, or is it good because it's good? Basically, if all these laws are good, are they good because God said they were, or can they be tested, and are they really good? And most of what we're saying is that these laws aren't good, and that the divine command theory. I get lost in thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's the Euthyphro dilemma. We talked about that on the first episode, and we brought that up and discussed it for a little bit.
Yes.
Our current justice system and the laws that we have now are far superior than the Ten Commandments, and really aren't based. We've given examples of how they're not based off of it. Our moral standards are better now than what is presented in the Ten Commandments. Is that what
And you would expect
going?
that as a
Yes.
species, you would progress, that you would learn from your mistakes and you would make changes and go on. There's no way. It's amazing how the things in the Ten Commandments are exactly to how society was back when they came up with them. I mean, they weren't like, oh my gosh, these are completely different than how everyone's living at this time. No, it's exactly how everyone was living at this time. They were already doing all this stuff.
Absolutely.
But we're not living like that time anymore.
We couldn't.
And that's why these laws don't apply.
Yes.
Well, and once again, we're missing a couple. Rape being the first one, but according to the Bible, that's okay, because if you're raping a woman, she's merely property, like an oxen. But number 2, slavery.
Absolutely.
No society now accepts slavery or condones it. It's just not accepted by pretty much anybody as in society standards throughout the world. There are slave trades still, and do you think that's okay? Should it or not be a commandment saying that slavery is bad?
I mean, I think owning somebody else is just wrong. There's no reason to own anyone else. You can't own somebody. It's simple. It's just as cut and dry as that.
I'm wondering if you should own dogs.
I mean, I don't own my dogs.
Now, people will argue that slavery in the Bible is not slavery as we see it now, but slavery is a form of indentured servitude,
right.
For a certain term, etc.
Except
5
for
years.
you can beat your slave, and as long as they don't die in a day or two, you're good.
Well,
You don't have to be punished for it.
Well, that's nice.
not just counting
So that sounds like just indentured servitude.
Well, will God not come down and add an 11th commandment, since the definition of slavery has now changed to say that slavery is bad?
Well, isn't he above definition too? Couldn't he have made a book with the commandments in such a way that we wouldn't have to
Argue
quibble
about it?
what slavery meant? He would
Exactly.
know already that in the year 2010 we'd be looking at these 10 commandments going, these don't make sense, and he would have made them in such a way that they did even in 2010 as they did in
Nobody
300
answered your
before
question.
Christ.
Should God come forward and make amendments to these bad laws?
I'm asking you guys. We've got a website. Come visit us. Give us some email, some feedback on this, and let us know.
Yeah, if you think
what
we
do you
missed,
think?
Yeah, if you think we missed the point on something, email us. We'd love to have some
I
emails.
frankly
We have a
think God
voicemail.
should show up for a lot more reasons than just amending the Ten Commandments. He should show up to let people know that he is, if he is, and I don't think he will.
According to the 700 Club, he showed up in Haiti. Look how that worked out for everybody.
The 700 Clubs, give me a break.
So I'm going to read an excerpt from the God Delusion, Richard Dawkins.
Okay.
This is the alternative to the 10 Commandments. Number 1, do not do to others what you would not want them to do to you. Stumbled through that, but that's the golden rule, right?
First it was the silver rule, and you know how it's written there? The silver rule was touted by Confucius somewhere around 500 years before biblical times. And Confucius taught the silver rule as a single word, and the word was shu, S-H-U. Now, it's doubtful whether he came up with the silver rule. It probably already existed like things before. But it was written in the negative rather than the positive, the way it was written for the Bible. And it says, do not impose upon others that which you would not choose for yourself.
Exactly. And I think we can all, that's one thing as a group I would think that all of us agree on. I know talking for most everyone on the Friday night socials and that, we most agree that, you know what, I'm not going to do something to someone else. I'm not going to kill this person because he didn't come kill me. I'm not going to steal from person X because, you know, he didn't steal from me.
So, I'm not going to covet his wife because she's ugly.
Number 2, in all things strive to cause no harm. Great. And you know what? And the thing he does with these is that they're not concrete. Strive to in all things, strive to cause no harm. It doesn't say don't cause any harm, but for all intents and purposes, try not to. And well, that's great. Try not to.
That's part of the Hippocratic Oath, as a matter of fact.
Right.
You know, the beginning words to it are first do no harm.
Right. Number 3, treat your fellow human beings, your fellow living things, and the world in general with love, honesty, faithfulness, and respect.
So what do you think? Dawkins is pretty smart, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we got 6 more to go here. Or
must be a man who uses his head rather than reads the Bible.
Indeed.
Yes.
Do not overlook evil or shrink from administering justice, but always be ready to forgive wrongdoing freely admitted and honestly regretted.
Mm-hmm.
Live life with a sense of joy and wonder. Always seek to be learning something new. That's my favorite.
That is good.
Test all things. Always check your ideas against the facts and be ready to discard even a cherished belief if it does not conform to them. And that's very,
that's
very
my
important.
favorite.
That's
Yeah.
nice one.
I mean,
Santa is not real.
Thank you, Ian.
It's a lie. A capitalistic lie to make you buy things.
He's more real than the Christian God Jesus, though. because
Well, at
there's
least
more evidence.
NORAD tracks Santa. You know, NORAD has not yet pointed out God floating through the sky. I've seen Santa in the mall. So you're right, there is more evidence for Santa.
Number 8, never seek to censor or cut yourself off from dissent. Always respect the right of others to disagree with you.
Yes.
And I actually see this sometimes, where you get in an argument on one of these social networking sites, and someone who you don't that you disagree with, and people will go through and delete the comments out from. They don't agree with your comments. Instead of allowing that to be there as is it a valid argument? Is it not? They just remove it because they disagree. And that's where we cause a lot of problems if we just shut off any disagreement. I think disagreement's an important thing. Form independent opinions on the basis of your own reason and experience. Do not allow yourself to be led blindly by others.
That's a great one.
Yes.
And number 10, question everything.
Well, he's already said question everything earlier.
Yeah, I mean, and he just said it plain. He made it in such a way that in the year, 4010, someone can go, question everything. I think that's simple enough to understand.
Ask questions.
I mean, I may be overshooting myself thinking
Well, no, but it's
thing,
kind of normally human nature to question all of this.
You should really add like 4 more that say question everything, because
Right.
that's the bottom line of the whole
Right.
thing.
Right.
I mean, it's humans by nature are curious. That's part of why we've evolved to the mental capacities that we have. And a human, as a child, almost has to be taught to not be curious or going to church.
Or held under thumb by a tyrant who makes
Right.
rules like
And this
to
last
kill the
one,
curiosity.
thou shalt not kill
And this-
and all that.
And I would make a case that this last one, question everything, is actually where religion came from. People had questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What does it mean? Why does it storm? Why do certain things happen?
Mm-hmm.
And they developed this religious belief that there's some higher power making it happen, because out of the evidence they had at the time, that's all they could conclude. But the problem is they stuck with that. And when we figured out that storms were produced, through weather patterns and high and low pressures, we figured all this stuff out. And yet we still hold on to we come from, God created us. That's how we got here.
Yeah.
Even though we have distinct evidence.
And don't question it. Don't question it. If
Right.
you can't question
You're
it.
not going to learn anything that way.
Yeah.
That's entirely wrong. You know what I think, when I read that list, and I've read it before, is that you get to the bottom of it and you almost have a sense of, wow, what a great American this guy is to say that. He's an Englishman.
Yeah. Well,
He's an Englishman.
yeah.
but he cares a lot about America.
If England
because-
ever throws him out, we want him, by the way.
the way the U.S. goes, so does the world go.
Yeah.
I mean, so he cares a lot about what the U.S. does and how. And right now, we're looked at as critically thinking backwards. I mean,
Yes.
we are so backwards compared to a lot of other countries in the world and how they approach the world and reality and view reality.
If you're an American and have any common sense, if you're traveling through Europe, you put a Canadian flag sticker on your backpack. It's just safer that way.
Makes sense.
I'm not
learn-
American, I'm Canadian.
And we-
And sadly, to the rest of the world, we really do look that bad.
I think I'd be courageous enough to put the American flag on there.
And if you go to Europe, learn as much as you can, because people down here don't know as much as people in Europe, and that's where we get most of our
Well,
traditions
I wouldn't say
from.
that in general, but there is other things out there in Europe that they do things that aren't all bad. It's not just because, oh, we're USA, we do everything perfect, and everyone else does everything wrong. And that's the wrong
evolution
attitude
is
to
the
take.
best example of this. In the United States, half the country won't accept the established empirical evidence for evolution. They just won't. The rest of the world is like, what's wrong with you people? I mean, stupid is the only word that I can come up with that really expresses that.
And if you guys are
I would say
interested,
stupid is a pretty good
Retarded,
description.
No, not that far.
dumbass. Seriously, like not just lecture.
if you
don't
guys
debate
are
it.
interested in evolution, I think our next show is going to be
stupid.
about
I like
evolution.
dumbass better.
Nicole, can you flash our email address up there for everybody to see? We love getting comments, and if you've got something to say, send us an email. Let us know.
Or we've got voicemail.
Send them all to Ian.
Send them to me. Hey, I'm on Facebook, and that's where the fun is. Come check us out.
So we've got voicemail also. If you don't feel like sending an email or you don't have access to email, you can leave a voicemail. Just keep in mind we may use that on the show. So just a disclaimer there.
But share your thoughts with us. We're wrong on
I'm
occasion,
not-
and
I
if we
said
are,
that-
let us know.
If I said something that you don't agree with, I'd like to hear about it. Brad would do the same thing.
I love to debate evolution a lot.
We are keeping ourselves. We're not trying to cut ourselves off from dissent, and we're allowing other people to have a disagreement with us.
Precisely.
Well,
Precisely.
and I enjoy the opportunity to point out stupid people. So please send me your letters. Bring it on.
We are belittling, especially in the case of evolution. I will belittle you.
Yes. If you say something blatantly stupid, I will call you out.
Now, here's a good
Likewise, if I say
here's
it,
one
bring
that
it
should
on.
be
What is
here's one
episode
that should
5?
be discussed according to the golden rule. I had a couple people visit me today, a couple of ladies toting their Bibles, and they come to the door, and the lady is tapping her Bible and telling me about the Bible and read the Bible and all that kind of stuff. Well, I ended up telling her the Bible's full of shit, of course, and she
I
went
invite
away.
them in, and we go through the Bible. And I've actually had 2 ladies leave my house crying.
Well, I didn't do that. I took the short. I
Only
was
2?
busy doing some work.
The rest of them just left.
Sorry.
I was busy
joke.
doing some work preparing for the show, as a matter of fact. So I took the short route, and I said, the Bible's full of shit, go away, and she did. And I was glad about it. But you know what? Look at that in a golden rule sort of way. How often do atheists go knocking on your door to not tap on Bibles? Not
That's a
very
good
often.
point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, so do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah, I don't go to your church and make these statements in front of your congregation. I'm just letting you know that. I feel that that's invading your personal space. Even I blatantly do not believe anything of your religious beliefs. But I'm not going to go to your congregation and talk smack. I'd appreciate it if you didn't come to my house.
Yeah, you know, I have full respect for your right to believe whatever you want to believe. There's not a law that says it anywhere in the United States. It's a collection of laws, but in fact, it is your right to be stupid if you want to, but keep it to yourself.
Don't push your faith onto others.
What they
Isn't
say.
faith supposed to be a very private, personal thing? I mean, that's your personal
That's what
conduit
I'm
to
saying.
God.
You know, keep it to yourself.
Why is that anybody else's
Believe whatever
business?
stupid stuff you want, but gee whiz,
Do you share
keep
what
it
you
within
did with your
own
wife
brain,
in the
keep it in
bedroom
your
with
own
the world?
backyard. Keep religion out of
Oh,
government.
and I believe we're out of time,
Schools.
guys.
Oh.
That was a pretty good show. We need to do this again.
Yeah. I think
And
Are
we
we already
will.
done?
our next show is on evolution.
Oh, I got a couple announcements before we go. We do a Friday night social every Friday. Meet up with us at Iron Horse Coffee Company around 6 p.m. or roll around the corner to Club Frisco about 8 o'clock. We'll be upstairs. We'll be the ones rocking the couches. We have a great time. If you're open for open discussion, some funny stuff,
More of what you saw
if
here.
you know how to make a video game, we might have some work for you. We had some really funny thoughts last night, but that's a whole nother
And not
topic.
everyone drinks, so if you don't drink, you can feel welcome
I
there as
didn't
well.
drink.
Yeah.
I went there and drank coffee all night.
And,
Water.
drinking's not required at the coffee shop. We usually have sandwiches and same kind of thing. You don't have. There's no set schedule, so you don't have to be there.
Okay,
at a
other
certain
meetings,
time.
Freethought.
We are doing a monthly meeting, March 13th at the Rogers Library. It will be at noon. We're going to discuss club business, future TV shows, and things of that effect.
Fayetteville Freethinkers.
They're done.
Last day of every month.
He's waving. The credits are
Saturday.
over.
All right, guys.
Woohoo! Yippee skippy!
Oh, the credits again.
Oh, more credits!
My